Renee, please.
Yeah. Hi, in this opportunity we talk about an interview of the effects of mycotoxins in the animal feed. Okay.
The first question is what are mycotoxins?
Mycotoxins are toxic substances produced by fungi, usually those fungi or molds that attack the stored grain.
Okay. What types of fungi occasion these mycotoxin?
Okay, basically there are two species of fungi that attack stored grains. First is Aspergillus. It's the more common because it can grow in moisture content from 13.5 to 16 or 17. And the other species is Penicillium. Penicillium, both species are present during storage of grains. And those are the main producers of mycotoxins during storage. And one important thing is the mycotoxins can prevail not only in storage but through the food chain, and you can have mycotoxins in eggs and milk.
What measures should be taken to prevent contamination of fungi that produce these mycotoxins?
Well, molds or fungi are directly related to moisture content. So what you have to do is control moisture content of the food you are going to store. Less than 13% of moisture content will control the fungi growth. Otherwise, you will have problems if you store foods, not only grains, but any food with moisture content above 13%. And it is important when you have your foods in your house, you have to keep them in a dry area and always in a ventilated area because fungi do not grow when the foods or the substrate is cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next question, how mycotoxins affect the ruminants?
Oh, okay. There are many effects that mycotoxins causes in the animal that have fed on contaminated feed. It reduces production. It can cause digestive problems. Can reduce the intake of food and reducing production of eggs, milk, or beef. Also cause problems in the reproductive system, and there is a problem that is called ketosis. Ketosis is the production of some substances that reduce the intake of carbohydrates, so the animals get skinny and they do not have the ability to produce energy in their bodies, so they become weak and less productive.
And the people can affect by if consume these products.
Oh yes, the people as well. People in persons, in people, the consumption of mycotoxins can produce intoxication, digestive problems, even primary liver cancer. And this is the main problem with mycotoxins.
And doctor, for example, is sure that the mycotoxin produce cancer in the people or
Okay.
investigation?
Yes, it is sure that mycotoxins are the cause of primary liver cancer. However, not all the mycotoxins cause cancer. You have to be aware of this. Not every contaminated food with these molds have mycotoxins. But if the person consume mycotoxins like on regular basis and some higher dose, they might get cancer. But it's not, depending on the amount, depending on the immune system of the person, and of course, I think that the main factor is the immune system of the person. Because if you have a weak immune system, you can get any disease at any time. But it's better to check for toxins or mycotoxins in your food. It is important that a country has regulations on the amount of mycotoxins allowed in the foods. I'm talking about milk, beef, and eggs. Correct.
In Zamorano, in your experience here, what was the most significant intoxication with the mycotoxin or?
I haven't heard of an intoxication in Zamorano, but we probably haven't heard of any problem because we haven't measured. So I encourage, especially laboratories such as the microbiology laboratory and the feed plant to undertake these measures, these measurements. I believe the feed plant, they have a system that they control the amount of toxins or mycotoxins in their products, because it's very important. Because if they do not do so, they can have a big problem with the dairy cows, or the beef cows, or the poultry area. So I believe they do have a control in this regard, but I would recommend that the Doris, for example, they take occasionally some samples and do some measurements of mycotoxins in the food, because we know vegetables, for example, vegetables are foods that contain a very, very high moisture, and easily you can have molds growing in vegetables and fruits. So it is advisable that the Doris Stone cafeteria, take some samples and do some measurements of mycotoxins occasionally, in a random system.
Okay, the next question. How to know if a grain is contaminated with mycotoxins?
How do you know? Okay, first, if the grain is contaminated or invaded by fungi, you can take this sample to UV light, and if it it has a fluorescence under the UV light, this is a presumptive test. It is not a sure test. So if it is fluorescent under this light, you have to take the sample to a laboratory, a specialist to do this test. Fortunately, in this area, we have some ELISA test. I talked to you about this in class.
Yes.
You take the samples and you can take the sample to these laboratories, and they perform ELISA tests, and they not even can identify the type of mycotoxin present in the grain, but also they can quantify the amount of mycotoxins present in the grain.
Okay, and the next question is how to know, what alternatives do you propose to prevent contamination?
The main proposal to prevent contamination is to store grain and foods in less than 30% of moisture content. This is one measure that applies to grain under storage, less than 30% of moisture content. But what about the other foods, the vegetables and fruits? What you do is to put it in the refrigerator and under cool and dry areas. As I said before, Other foods such as butter and meat, just leave it in the fridge. Never put it on the environment, ambient temperature in wet areas, because that can promote the growth of fungi.
Thank you, doctor, for your time of
No problem.
cooperating on
No problem.
the
Anytime.
interview.
No problem. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Better,
Have a good.